Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Here it is, the long-awaited blueberry pie video. In this video I'm going to show you just how to make this pie, the filling and the crust. We're going to start with the filling. You're going to need tapioca flour, some cane sugar, an orange, a little salt, and of course blueberries. You can use fresh or frozen, but I've got fresh today. All of the measurements will be down in the description box along with the recipe and full instructions. I'm going to start out by zesting my orange. Now I used to have a zester, who knows where it is, but I'm going to use just a regular peeler today and just kind of shave it off. You just don't want to get into the white of your orange. And once I get done zesting that orange, I'm just going to give it a good squeeze because we're going to use some of the juice out of there also for our filling. And finally, I'm going to take half of the blueberries, and I just have mine in a Ziploc bag because it's just a little bit easier, and just squish them until they're all squished up. You want to release all the juices in these, so you want to squish every single one that there is. Now we're going to mix up our dry ingredients in here. We've got our tapioca flour, our sugar, and our salt. And we're just going to give that a good stir till it's all incorporated. And to our dry ingredients, we're going to add in all of our smushed berries, and our zest, and finally our orange juice. And mix that all up really, really well. You don't want any of the powder to be left. Now we're gonna let this sit and thicken for about 15 minutes. While you wait for your filling, you're just gonna cover the pie tin that you'll be using in foil. Once you wait your 10 to 15 minutes, you're just gonna stir in your whole blueberries. Just fold those in so you don't squish them. And then pour the entire mixture into your prepared pie tin. You're going to pop this into the freezer and let it freeze for like 8 to 10 hours or so. You just want it to be really good and frozen. So I just do it before bed and then pop it in there, and then it's ready to go. Now on to our all butter crust. You're just going to need butter, all-purpose flour, salt, sugar, and ice water. You're just going to start by measuring out your flour and adding in your salt as well, and sugar if you're using it. Now this crust can be used with just about anything. I've even used it for chicken pot pie, but I just omit the sugar when I do a savory filling. But just mix up your dry ingredients, and then we're going to cut our butter into tiny, tiny little chunks. And you're going to incorporate this butter using a fork or a pastry cutter. I just use my fingers. That's probably not the best way to do it, but that's just the way that I did it, until you have little pea-sized pieces of butter. And then you'll start mixing in your ice water. You're just going to mix in enough ice water that it starts to hold together, but it's not sticky. And this crust recipe makes 2 full-size crust, or a top and a bottom if that's what you're doing. And it freezes really well, so you can keep it in the freezer for the day you need it. I wrapped mine here in a little parchment paper and stuck it in the fridge for about 30 minutes or so it could solidify a little bit, so it'll be easier to roll out once we're ready to get started. Best pie crust ever. Now we're just putting it all together here. Once your filling is frozen, you'll just make sure that it's frozen by lifting up on the side there. As long as it stays together, you're good to go. If you're not using it right away, you can wrap it in plastic wrap and then stick it in a gallon Ziploc bag and save it for later. In fact, you can do multiple fillings at a time and just save them all just like that. They stay good in the freezer for a good long time. Here I'm just putting a little flour down so I can roll out my crust. You're also going to want to go ahead and preheat your oven for 325. Now you can also use a Pillsbury pre-made pie crust. It's fine like that. It's just not my favorite. I really like homemade pie crust, so that's why I take the extra step to do it. But you can totally use a store-bought pie crust or the Pillsbury rollout pie crust, and it's just as fine. It's easier to do that way, and if you're at a pinch, then it's fine to do it like that too. Still tastes awesome. Now you're going to want to go ahead and fork your pie crust. That way you don't have any air bubbles as it's baking. Now I'm just going to go ahead and lattice my pie crust. You absolutely don't have to do this. You can just roll out your second crust and put it on top and make a couple vent holes and you'll be good to go. It really just depends on how you like it. I personally, for a blueberry pie, prefer a latticed topping. That's just, you know, that traditional blueberry pie look. But once I get done with all the latticing, I'm just going to cut off the excess and crimp the edges of my pie. There's lots of ways to crimp the edges of the pie. I just did a large crimp and just take my thumb in the middle and my thumb and pointer finger from the other hand and just push them together, I guess is the best way to explain that. And just make a big crimp on the sides of my pie dish. My egg wash is just an egg yolk and about a tablespoon and a half or so of water whisked up. And I'm going to brush that all over the top of my pie crust. And for a little something extra special, I just sprinkle on a little bit of organic sugar. This will bake at 325 for an hour and 15 minutes. I will say that I usually have to go ahead and broil the top a little bit. It cooks it but doesn't brown it too much, which is actually a pretty good thing when you're baking a pie for that long. You really don't want it to burn. So this one I broiled. I may have broiled it a little too long. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you make this pie for yourself or for your family, and then come back here and let me know how it was. If you have any questions, you can always email me, but the recipe and all the instructions will be down below in the description box. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Hit that big old like button and notification bell so you don't miss any videos in the future. And we will see you in the next video. Bye.